Hello, my fellow askers. It's Stacy with Ask Stacy Now. This is the week we're going to talk about immune systems and how important it is for us to take care of ours. And although regardless of what's going on right now in the nation, it's extremely important every day of the year, because regardless of what's going on right now, there is always going to be something new that's going to jeopardize our immune systems, and we need to be knowledgeable about what that is. And the more information we can get, the better we're going to be. The first thing I want to talk about is autoimmune diseases. And with the list growing and growing every single day of recognized and diagnosed autoimmune disease, it is so very important that we know exactly what that means. I have a lot of people that I come in contact with that says, well, I was just, it's my genetics. I had no chance, my genes. I have horrible genes. Genetics loads the gun. And I really want to talk about that and what that means. So the old saying is, genetic loads the gun, you pull the trigger. And that is so completely true. So if you've never heard that and this is your first time, I'm going to explain what that means. We are all genetically predisposed to certain things. We all have cancer in our body. For some of us, if you've ever had chickenpox, you are now have in your system, you have the chances to get shingles. We have multiple sclerosis, we have lupus, we have all of these things laying dormant within our bodies. And what happens is we pull the trigger. There is something that we're either not giving our bodies that it desperately needs, or that we're giving it too much of something that it needed and it's actually became a toxic, or we've completely deprived our body of something that it needed, and that flipped the switch. And here's how I relay that to my life. So if it was true that we have no choice in our lives and that our genetics play a complete role in our lives and that everything that happens is what's happened to our parents and our ancestors, why do my siblings not have the same thing, autoimmune disease, that I have? And so for those of you that know me, you'll probably have heard this story multiple times, but for those of you who are just seeing me for the very first time, I'd like to tell you my story. I have multiple sclerosis, and I've had multiple sclerosis for roughly around 30 years. And how it originally started was kind of funny. I guess if multiple sclerosis can be funny. So I was out with friends one night and we were bowling and we were drinking and having fun, and not drinking excessively, but just having a really good time. And as I went to roll the ball, my feet were numb and I didn't feel it, and I slid down the lane and fell. And so we kind of attributed to, Stacy's just a klutz, or she'd maybe drank too much, or whatever that looks like. And so I didn't really think anything. But over the next few days, my hands started to tingle and started to go numb as well. And I contacted a chiropractor because I thought, well, you know what, maybe I have a pinched nerve in my back. And so I went to a local chiropractor, and he had asked, have you ever had an MRI done? And of course I said no. And so went and had an MRI done. And within just a few days, very few days, I got a call from the local neurologist who said, we went over your results and you have lesions on your brain and it looks like you have multiple sclerosis. Now, for anyone sitting there who works in the healthcare field thinking, oh my gosh, with HIPAA, how did you do that? When I got diagnosed 30 years ago, you could actually still smoke in the hospitals. So HIPAA wasn't necessarily a big thing. He did tell me my results over the phone, and I was not a patient of his at that point, but that's completely beside the point. And so in a panic, having been working in the nursing field, I knew what that meant. And I had only been around people who were at the end stages of their disease process. So they were in wheelchairs, they were paralyzed. And so I immediately went to the doctor and said, let's do whatever we have to do. He turned to me and said, if we do not get you on a disease-modifying medication, you will be in a wheelchair within 5 years. And so to me, there was no question. Absolutely, let's do it. Let's get me on a disease-modifying medication. And that was the end of that discussion. And so for roughly, I would say at least 20 years, I was on a disease-modifying drug. Well, all the research that's being done, and you can do the research yourself, medications can do only so much, and in most cases only mask the symptoms. So what happens years later is I was having horrific side effects from the medication, and now I'm medically compromised. I'm not going to say I'm in a horrible health. I'm medically compromised in a lot of ways because of the medications that I took for my MS. And I didn't do much research and didn't really question the doctor, because most of us were raised that our physicians were the expert. We don't question them. They had the latest and greatest information, and we just did what they said. So here's years later, and I realized the disease progressed, regardless of me being on disease-modifying medications. Now, I did have 20 years symptom-free, and I'm so thankful for that and feel totally blessed for having that time. But now it's time for me to really pull up my big girl panties and figure out what's going on with me. And so I decided to do as much research as I possibly could. And so I tried all of these amazing diets. So there's the Walls protocol, there's the Swank diet, there's many, many diets that you can do for multiple sclerosis to reverse the symptoms. However, with my special situation, I wasn't quite able to do those, and I didn't see the results that I really thought I was going to, that they were raving about. And so it really concerned me that maybe I was in a situation that I couldn't reverse, or that I was different than everybody else. And so I decided to become formally trained as a functional nutrition coach. And I was amazed at the things that I had learned about. And so again, we're going to go back to that genetics loads the gun, you pull the trigger. There are so many things that we are doing to our body that are causing these switches to be flipped on autoimmune diseases. And so I really wanted to talk to you about what that means. So let's look at this. So everything that we're eating right now, and especially with this going on with us all staying home, we are eating badly. We're eating lots of processed foods. We're not sleeping. And if you're anything like me, I am not one of those people that watches Netflix, can watch one episode, turn it off, and go to bed. I'm a binger. And so at night, we're not getting enough sleep. We are suffering with constipation, heartburn, reflux, all kinds of different things, joint pain. And yet we attribute it to getting older, or, oh, I just ate the wrong foods, or I produce way too much digestive acids. And I want to tell you those things are completely untrue. What we are eating is definitely causing some significant issues with our body, but it is so much more than that. Our body really does, and our immune does really rely so much on the emotions that we have. And there's something that's called the brain gut, the head gut brain, and we'll talk about that. It's called the vagus nerve. But it's so much to do with so many different things. Our emotions play a huge part of our immune systems, and we're all stressed out. There's so much going on. There's so much uncertainty in the world and in life in general. Every single day, we're pushed and pulled in so many different directions. Stress is such a huge part of our lives. Food is such a huge part of our lives, and it's so convenient sometimes to pick up something through the drive-through or to make something out of a box because we have so little time. And I'm not making excuses for anyone. I want you to know that I hear you. I understand where you're coming from, and I was there. And in a lot of cases, still struggle not to be there again. It's really important. Our digestion also is really important because of our poop. Our poop is so important, and I know people are probably giggling right now. I kind of been coined the queen of poop, but poop tells you so much about your body. And whether it's soft or hard or whatever that looks like, it really does tell you a lot about what's going on in your system. And there's so much at play here. But I want to talk about what we're doing, we can change right now. So the underlying theme for any autoimmune disease and a lot of symptoms, regardless if it's an autoimmune disease or not, is inflammation. And what inflammation means is that we're giving our body something that it doesn't need, and our body kind of looks at it as an alien or a predator and really turns itself, and that's what autoimmune is that the body turns on itself. And so in multiple sclerosis, I can talk about that. It's actually that fatty sheath that's on all of the nerves. The body sees that as an alien predator and starts to attack it and take it off. And so that's why a lot of people start to have the numbness and tingling, or they lose the way to walk, is because they forget and the nerves don't have that communication. And so that's the problem with our bodies in autoimmune disease, is that our bodies turn on themselves. And again, with inflammation, we're giving our bodies a reason to fight itself. Now, I'm going to say something that's probably not going to be very popular, but everything that I have learned, everything that I have researched, all the training that I have done, and I follow some very, very good physicians, functional and integrative physicians, and the underlying cause in a lot of cases starts with gluten. Now, I know a lot of people are going to sit back and say, I had a grandma or grandpa that ate gluten for 100 years and they were just fine. And now all of a sudden we're talking about gluten intolerance and celiac disease. And I think it's a bunch of hoopla. Okay, I was one of those people as well. But when I really started doing research, really started listening to everything, and really started looking at things, here's the reason why that gluten is such a hard thing for people to process. And unless you have an autoimmune disease, you're probably thinking, I don't have to do it. But I really want to talk about that later. So with gluten, it is being processed completely different. And so it's being chemically processed, which is something our bodies were never intended to process. The second thing is it's being sprayed with pesticides during the growing process or chemical agents. And we're all now very familiar with the lawsuit that's going on with Monsanto. We can see that part, but however, we don't see that that's on our food and that could be causing any issues with us. So I really, this whole series is really about you getting to connect the dots within your life. But with gluten, what it does is it causes inflammation in your system. And again, your body sees that as an alien predator. And so whether it's joint pain or respiratory issues, or in my case, nerve damage, inflammation is what starts the process. Now, inflammation is a good thing and a bad thing. In short spurts, it is a very good thing because that lets you know that there is a problem and your body's trying to resolve it. And let's say in the middle of the night, you walk through the house and you walk into something, that swelling is inflammation, and that's a good thing. Now, if you keep inflammation all the time, that is not a good thing because that is flip the switch on and makes your immune system overactive. And that's what autoimmune systems do, is they are overactive immune systems. And so if you're inflamed all the time, that's a bad thing. That tells your body we need to fight, and we need to fight all of the time. AKA, hello, autoimmune disease. So that's something we really need to talk about. And another thing is you really need to pay very close attention to labels, because so many people think gluten is just in bread or just in pastas or just in rolls. And that's where a large portion of it is. Unfortunately, that is not only where it's at. It is in spaghetti sauces, it's in cheese, it's in the silliest things, lipsticks, cosmetics, shampoos. You would be absolutely surprised at the places that gluten is in. And I started this journey probably about a month ago and was very, I'm just going to say, very ignorant to what gluten was in. And I have been very blessed to have a really great resource in my life that has been gluten-free for a number of years. And so I often speak with, and it's my sister, I often speak with her and say, can I have this? Can I not have that? Does this have gluten? And for a lot of people, they don't have that resource. And I will provide you with some really great websites to go to if you really want to know more about gluten, and if you honestly want to take on going gluten-free. However, I hear a lot of people say, well, I only eat gluten every once in a while. And to me, I am not judging anyone. I hear you. I understand where you're coming from. I was one of those people. Gluten, when you flip the switch, let's say you go a long period of time being gluten-free, and that's absolutely wonderful. You start to decrease the inflammation. You start to feel better, and you think, well, you know what? I'm feeling better. I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to have this roll. The thing is with that is that actually flips your immune system on. It can flip the immune system on for a long period of time. It's just not while you're digesting that gluten. It actually flips the switch on. So let's say I have a roll and then I go back to gluten-free. I may have flipped the switch on for my body to fight within itself for months or weeks after that. That little roll caused so much problem. Now, am I going to tell you that going gluten-free is easy? I'm absolutely not going to say that. But anyone who knows me knows I'm not a huge fan of deprivation either, or doing these very strenuous things that we're not able to sustain. So I'm not the type of person that says you need to get up and go gluten-free, dairy-free, sugar-free, eat only raw vegetables, get up at 5 o'clock in the morning and work out. Because quite frankly, it is not going to be sustainable. You're going to be miserable, and then AKA stress, and that makes things even worse. My thing is low and slow. And so with me, I know there are lots of things I'm going to have to give up, but I really want to listen to my body first. And so my first thing was going gluten-free and being very vigilant about that. The other part of that is my family will eventually go gluten-free as well. But if I bring home foods that taste horrible, that recipes that are difficult to make or that are not satisfying at all, and they're the things that people in my family like, they will never do it. And so to me, it's really important for me to get this down, get really great recipes of things we already ate and be supplementing in where we can go gluten-free in order to roll that out to my family. The other part of this is, if I give up everything, what do I eat? And the next thing you know, I want to go back and I'll start cheating and then again flipping the switch. So first thing I want everyone to think about is going gluten-free. I will provide the resources for you to look at that give really great ideas about what you can do, what you can't do, and really about how to read labels, because that is not my area of expertise, and I don't want to misinform anyone. But I really want you to know what's going on with your body. That's the other thing that I really want to talk about with the autoimmune diseases. I kind of look at it like a car. So you buy this car and it's beautiful and it's your dream, it's what you've always wanted, so you're putting premium gas in, you're washing it all the time, you are on schedule with oil changes, you're doing everything right. And then the honeymoon's over, and 2 or 3 months down the road or a year down the road, next thing you know, the oil should have probably been changed 2,000 miles ago. Yeah, I only got $10 in the checking account, so I'm just going to put in regular gas, not premium gas. Yeah, there's still road salt on it, and I'm not going to wash it because of whatever reason. That's exactly how our bodies are. We start off going strong, and the next thing you know, the honeymoon's over, and we started doing things a little differently. That's exactly what pulling the trigger means. And so rust doesn't start as an overall on your car. That's what autoimmune is. It starts off really, really small. You may not even notice. And so a lot of people that I talk to about autoimmune diseases or doing these changes before they even know they have one, they'll say, oh, I don't have any problems with that. I don't have any problems with that. Well, you didn't notice that your car was rusty from the underside until it actually went onto your doors or onto the roof of the car, or until it became a problem. That is when autoimmune diseases are recognized, is when you start having symptoms. What if we could prevent that? What if we could go back and start changing things now before we actually had an autoimmune disease and then had to spend a lot of time reversing it? That's where I'm at right now. I want you to take care of that rust when it's just a little bitty problem and not a huge problem. I want you to prevent autoimmune disease before you have an autoimmune disease. I want you to learn what it takes to be healthy, to stay healthy, to do easy, simple little things to be healthy. And I want you to pass that on to your family, because who else would we do this for? And I have to tell you, having multiple sclerosis, it wasn't all about me staying healthy. The first time I had a grandchild that was born, and I had to sit down before I could hold my grandchild because I didn't feel safe walking with them. That's not me. That's not who I am, and that's not okay. And so if you've seen any of my videos, that's originally what started this whole thing. Is this is progressing and I need to figure it out. And that's the reason why I've done everything I've done. I started the total wellness community to get myself physically strong at a time when I was thinking traditional medicine, nursing, that I needed to stay physically strong. That is not at all we need to do. We need to be physically strong, but there is so much more to that. And so I have since transitioned out of the total wellness community, and someone else has bought the business and taken that on. And I really wanted to do this side of it. I wanted to work with people on their nutrition. I wanted to work with people on their neurofeedback, and we'll talk about that when we talk about stress. I really wanted to inform people so that this doesn't have to happen to them and they're not spending years and years reversing. Now, once you do realize you have an autoimmune disease, or you do find out that you have the symptoms of an autoimmune disease, it's not going to heal you overnight by giving up gluten or giving things up, but it is healing you, and you just have to have faith in the process. I know we all want a quick fix, and that's why we go for the painkillers, and that's why we go for the cold medicines, and that's why we do the things we do, because we want that quick win. Just have faith. You didn't get here overnight. You're not going to reverse it overnight, but you are doing great steps to do that. And so again, I want to talk about inflammation. I want to talk about things that you can do, and I want to keep that communication going. And today's whole concept and today's whole talk was really about autoimmune disease. And if I just give you one snippet, one thing to do, or one time to start the research for yourself and to learn for yourself, I hope that you take with you the knowledge to know that I'm here for you, I'm here with you, and I understand. So again, the best thing you can do for yourself is to give up gluten, and I'm going to be offering some feedback about what that looks like and some websites for you to go to. If you have any questions, please post something below, but I want you to have an absolutely spectacular day, morning, evening, whenever you're watching this, and have the best day you possibly can and be the best you. Thank you.